NENA, the National Emergency Number Association, offers an advanced class called the Center Management Certification Program, or CMCP for short. This is a week-long class that delves into the intricacies of running and managing a 911 emergency operations center with a curriculum designed by and for emergency telecommunicators. With hands-on training as well as lecture and role play, this class is touted as an excellent introduction to leadership. This is Lifeline. Well, everyone, welcome back. I'm your co-host, Gary, and of course, your host, Erica, is here as well.
Hello.
Erica, who is a freshly minted CMCP graduate, so congratulations, Erica.
Thank you. Thank you. That was weak.
Yeah.
Woo.
So, you went to this class. It's a like in-person classroom class, I think, for
Mhm.
40 hours, so a full
Yeah.
week. So, how did that kind of go? How was that structured? How, were there other people there? How did that feel?
So it was what I expected based on the what do you call it? Not just the curriculum, the syllabus.
Hmm.
It is a lot of information. I knew it was going to be a lot, but I think I still let me back up. I think I still kind of underestimated just how much information they were going to be throwing at us. I don't know about you when you went, because you went about 3 years ago, right? Something like
Yes.
that. When they say deep dive, I believe it. It is definitely that. There were places in there where my head was going, what? Say that again? Because it was just a lot.
Hmm.
I mean, they covered everything from 911 origins to, I mean, we consolidated PSAPs. And what I did not know is that I don't know if this happened in your class, but in ours, we consolidated PSAPs in groups that were actual PSAPs. We didn't know that the scenarios that we were using were
Hmm.
modeled after real PSAPs. And so all of the all of the components were real. This was not just some made up scenario, somebody in a back room just like throw it on the paper, let's see what happens. It's real stuff.
Yeah, yeah. The names were changed to protect the innocents, but um,
Yes.
they, they use real scenarios and just modify them a little bit so you don't know like necessarily where they are. Although
Yeah.
they usually tell you at the end. Um,
Yes. Yes.
but it's kind of cool because it's like this actually like is a situation somebody in or near my shoes at another center had to go through and
Mm-hmm.
had to figure out how to navigate all these things. So like I'm a really big proponent of sort of that hands-on, that kinesthetic learning where you're actually doing and trying to figure out and solve a problem. That energizes me.
Absolutely. And what I found was really interesting is the group activities you were paired with, and I think they did this on purpose. They made sure that there were seven of us
Hmm.
from one agency. Whew. And again, I'm doing a shout out. Gary, Jenny, Casey. Oh my God, they held it down whilst the other seven supervisors at the PD went to this class. And so what I thought was really smart that they did is they separated us so that none of us were in the same group.
Hmm.
And it kind of gave me insight on what it must be like to have all these personalities all in leadership making decisions about a PSAP. Because for us, or at least for me, and I'm sure you'll agree here, my level is supervisor, so it's frontline supervision. So some of the scenarios that we were dealing with were from that, what is that 10,000, 30,000 foot viewpoint. And
Yeah.
so it was pretty eye-opening in some ways for me. I have a completely new respect for anyone who runs a PSAP as a director by themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like they are the head. So you are the head honcho, and you may have one other assistant manager or assistant director, and then maybe like two or three supervisors underneath you. But you are responsible for a consolidated center that houses 20, 30 people, and you make all the decisions.
The success and failure rests squarely on your shoulders.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also really interesting because when you are, the class is designed for sort of that top down kind of management view. It's not
Hmm.
really for like a floor level personnel or even like a supervisor. It's for an executive level position, that somebody that actually, where the buck stops, I suppose would be a good way to put
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah.
So you get sort of that feeling of you're the one that's making the decision, though you still have stakeholders to report to and different um, problems that you need to weigh and the resources available, which you kind of play out throughout the scenarios.
Yes. And again, it just gave me a different perspective, a different viewpoint, and a different appreciation for what it must be like to view things from a looking down, whereas my everyday is looking down, yes, but looking straight ahead and also looking up because we're all reporting up, right? So this was I found myself going, this doesn't sound very supervisory. And then I'd have to remind myself, well, duh, Erica, that's because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's for, hence the title, Center Manager. I had to remind myself, but I found it incredibly educational. We were pushed out of our comfort zone. And this was the 166th class. And I don't know how big the others were, but I'm thinking that's still not a lot of people with this designation.
Right. Yeah. And it's a sort of a special designation that NENA gives you, which is as we said, the National Emergency Number Association. It's a class to help prepare the current and next generation of emergency communications center managers so that they can do a better
Yes.
job and the challenges that they're going to be facing. Because one of, like, I don't know about in the class you were in, but when I went there a few years ago, one of the big topics in the class was this push for consolidation. So you'd have, five or
Hmm.
six little tiny PSAPs in a county, and it's like, hey, we can save a lot of money and provide better service if we take all of them and just kind of shunk them together in one big one. I mean, we've talked to people on the show about that, like the North Texas Emergency Communication Center was, made up of
Yes.
I think four or five different entities.
Yep.
So one communication center handling, four or five different law enforcement agencies, uh, emergency calls and radio traffic.
Yeah. And you're trying to decide um, equipment, and it's just really a back door to, whatever you want to use, pop the hood, look behind the curtain, any of those things. I really appreciated getting getting to see what it's like to consider all of those things, because anyone who works in a PSAP, we all know that somebody's got to pay the light bill. Sure,
Yeah.
right? Because we got lights. Somebody's got to pay your water bill. Oh, yeah, because we have water, Erica. Duh. But then when you start to think about the vendors and contracts and budgets and what that looks like. What do you mean we don't have enough money? What do you mean this is why you can't upgrade your CAD system every time the floor thinks that you should?
Hmm.
And there's just so many details. That's the word I'm looking for. So many details that those of us at that level beneath and even further down, we just don't, not only do we not think about it, we don't even know they exist.
Right. Yeah. I mean, from a supervisor standpoint, we shield a lot of our floor staff from criticisms and complaints that we get on them
Hmm.
from the public because we find that they're not valid one way or
Hmm.
another. Probably 85, 90% of them.
Very much
Um,
so. Agreed.
and the same is true for, directors. They shield their management and supervisors from a lot of things like, we don't have enough money for X and Y and Z. They've got to figure
Hmm.
out things. So like the the soldiers in the trenches don't even have to worry about like you know where X and Y and Z are coming from.
Yeah. One of the things that I appreciated also was, at least our instructor, Paul, emphasized a lot the importance of taking care of your people and what it looks like or what it feels like for a director to consider so many different, what am I looking for? Not facets, so many different components to the morale in their center, right?
Hmm.
And the floor, a lot of times, and I've been guilty of this too, and I'm sure that you would probably agree, we don't have any idea what it is they do, what they deal with every day. And so we don't know how much they actually do advocate for us. We don't know, like you, until you just now said it, that they shield us from quite a bit. They are shielding us from not just the public, they're shielding us from the other stakeholders who are complaining because they have no idea what it is we do. They want things a certain way, and our leadership is like, no, can't do it that way because of XYZ. And we just have absolutely no idea. So we're down here, yada, 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 blah, 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 complain, complain, complain. But they're taking those darts.
Hmm. Yeah, the slings and arrows.
They have to take those. And what's worse, they can't even tell us that that's what they're doing.
Right. I mean, because the amount of just random stuff that they have to block for us, because that way we don't have to worry about it, and we can focus on our tasks. Our,
Yes.
not 30,000 foot view, but as supervisors, we have maybe 100 foot view, and
Mm-hmm.
by us focusing on that, it lets the actual 911 operators and dispatchers focus on their immediate sort of this is right in front of me kind of view.
Yeah. And another thing that I realized is so many times we think that our highest level within the center, of course, doesn't care about this, that, or the other, but what we forget to do is tell them.
Yeah.
So, funny story that he told, I just thought this was just amazing. He was telling us about uh, at his center, excuse me, at his center, they were getting ready to make some repairs. And so the vendor had called him and said, "Hey, I'm on my way over." Now, this is a small PSAP, so it's not like there's 15 different people there that can, or two or three different supervisors that can oversee this. He is on his way. The vendor is already there. And oh dear, I'm about to go dark. Hang on. I forgot to plug in.
Oh
Two
no,
seconds. I know.
I will
Oh no.
entertain you by dancing. Boop, 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 boop.
Ah, crisis averted.
Okay,
Okay.
it's good
Uh
that you
oh.
caught that ahead of time.
I know, but it feels like now I'm delayed.
Oh, you were about to go dark.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that was what you said. The vendor supervisor was uh, en route while
Oh,
the vendor was.
so yeah. So the director was on his way there, and he had to call ahead because the vendor was on his way, and so was the director. The vendor was going to get there before the director was. So he calls ahead and says to, I think it was a lead that was on duty at the time. Again, small PSAP, so a lead doubled as the supervisor. So he says, "Hey, I'm on my way. The vendor's going to be there any minute. I'm going to need you to A, let them in, and they're coming in to do this at this station. I need you to move whoever is there."
Hmm.
And she's like, "What?" They're coming to fix position number 5, and I need you to move whoever is sitting at position number 5 so they can get under it, over it, whatever it is, so they can fix it. Well, he didn't know that she was the one that was sitting at position number 5, so she's like, "But I don't want to move." That face right there. Yeah. He's like, "I understand."
Yeah, I couldn't imagine an employee being like, "I don't want to move my station." That would just be impossible to
I,
phantom.
what? He's like, "Yes, okay, I understand that you don't necessarily want to move, but They have to come in and fix this thing. So, you know, move.
Yeah, that's not a request. It's not a suggestion.
So he says, you can move to the next station. She huffs and puffs and she moves to the next station. He comes in and she's giving him the evil eye. He's like, "Good morning, how you doing?" She's, I mean, just mean mugging him because she had to move one station over. And he's, which I get it, because I would probably be like, "What is, what's the problem? I know, is it the angle for the TV? What is it? What is it, girl? What
Yeah,
is the problem?"
yeah. You can either move stations or move jobs. I don't care.
It's,
Pick one.
I mean, okay. And besides, when they're done fixing this your favorite station, guess what gets to happen? You get to move back to said station. It's really simple.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's like, "I don't understand why I'm getting mean mugged," but anywho, he asks her, "What's the problem?" She's like, "You made me move." It's like, "I told you that you had to move," and I'm going somewhere with this. It sounds ridiculous because it was.
Yeah. It does sound
It
ridiculous.
really is absolutely ridiculous. And this is the director. This is the part that's blowing my mind because anybody who works with me knows that my alter ego supervisor, who is Boquita, would is not nearly as understanding as this wonderful man sounds like he was. I'd have been like, "I'm gonna need you to move, and we're done talking about this." But anywho, he's having this whole conversation with her about why she had to move and why she's upset about moving. He says, "What is the difference between that station and this one?" She goes, "The pedal's broken. The foot pedal.
Okay.
The foot pedal, Gary." So let me get the okay. So when the vendor comes to fix whatever was originally wrong with the station, I don't know if this was phones or radio shop or right. So my guess is whoever it was not there to fix the foot pedal. Because why weren't they there to fix the foot pedal? Because the director had no idea the foot pedal was broken.
Exactly.
He says, "How long has it been broken?" She said, about 3, 4 months.
I mean, it sounds stupid, but like anybody that's worked anywhere or lived on planet Earth for any length of time knows that that's 100% accurate for how things work, right? I mean, we all do.
3 or 4 months. And he's like, I, okay. He goes off and he says, "I can't remember if it was that day, but it was definitely, if not, if it wasn't that day, it was that very next business day it was fixed." Once it was fixed, another day passes by, comes back and he's like, "How you doing?" She's like, "Hmm." She's still rolling her eyes and puckering her lips because it took him that long to fix it, even though he had no idea it was broken. I
Exactly.
say all of that to say, in that moment, I was like, I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I would have the patience or the tolerance to have a conversation like that. First of all, why are you mean mugging me?
Yeah.
Move, and I need you to smile while you slide. Just what?
Yeah, but yeah, it
I don't get it.
yeah, it takes a lot of restraint and y- ability to control yourself, self regulate, to be a department director because not only are you talking to hit my mic because not only are you talking to employees, but you also have to talk to the external partners as well, the other
Yes.
agencies, PIO. I think the
Yeah.
concluding project, at least for my class when we did it, was sort of a you get at the lectern and you give a
Mhm.
press conference, right?
Yes. So we actually had to do a series of videos throughout the week, which was going to prepare us to be able to do a presentation. Because, some people really struggle
Hmm.
with public speaking. And as a center director, assistant manager, even, no matter the size of your PSAP, you may very well be called upon to speak to authorities outside of your center.
Yeah.
City council, potentially the chief. It depends, depending on the size, or perhaps the media. We got we got a lot of practice at that, and so we were really prepared for that in the end. It was a crazy amount of fun. I don't want to give too much away, but it was a crazy amount of fun. But when they say they pushed us out of our comfort zone, it really did, and I am better for it. Public speaking is not necessarily a thing that bugs me, really. Right now, it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But some people really do struggle with that.
Yeah.
And they find themselves, they were able to interview, they're able to interact with their centers, they interact with their peers and their subordinates, and that's fine, but you're in the safety of your center. And
Hopefully you
while
feel
that
safe in
is,
your center.
well, but it's agreed.
Yeah.
While you may not be any physical danger, you're still safer
Yeah.
because these are people that are familiar to you.
Yeah. The devil you know is better than
Whether
the devil you don't.
Exactly. And having to brace for and prepare for the possibility of speaking to people outside of the organization on a professional level. This is not just casual conversation. This is where you are explaining your actions, your vision for your center. You're
Mm-hmm.
potentially having to answer to maybe even the media about a decision that one of your call takers or dispatchers made.
Mm-hmm.
And now, because the buck starts and stops with you now have to figure out how to speak to that without A, throwing your person under the bus, even if that means, even if they had done something against policy or did not make the best judgment, you have to account for what happened while not slaughtering your employee.
Right.
And there's a delicate balance there
Yeah.
because even if they are going to be terminated, that's not a conversation that's not a thing that they should find out on the next newscast.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really interesting because I remember very clearly that that project because um, I felt I'm not one that really ever is nervous about public speaking or like giving training or anything like that. But just because of the way that it was like set up to be very formal, very straight
Hmm.
laced, uh, I felt like just that dump of adrenaline. Like I used to do theater
Yes.
in high school, in front of two, three, 400 people, and that was the same level of adrenaline that I felt like getting
Hmm.
behind that podium just for this this play class, this
Yeah.
fictitious class with like 20 people in it that I would feel in front of like
Yeah.
500 people.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's just it was good to kind of experience because you don't you think you'd be fine because like I can get up and talk in front of people all day long without any issue, but just
Hmm.
that moment and like it's kind of like when we first started the podcast, and like especially when we had the cameras on, it's kind of nerve wracking to talk into a camera and to
Yeah.
into a microphone, even though that's what you and I do, talking to a microphone
All
for,
day
for
long. I mean,
15, 25 years.
yes, it's the craziest business, but it's the unknown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it is the unknown, and it is, even though by the time you get to that project and by the time you have to execute that project for your grade, you have developed some friendships, whether they last forever or not. You at least are now familiar with the people in the room. You have begun to kind of get a feel for who's sitting on either side of you in your group, because now by then you've done two or three different scenarios and projects together.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of the week, you're starting to really exchange the stories and develop respect for each other. And so you want them to see you. You want to do well, and you want them to see you do well. So I would imagine it's nerve wracking to get up there and put yourself on display
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah, and then and then at the end, it's like, does anyone have any questions? And just hope that you don't have somebody like me in that class if you go to it, because I always try to come up with some hard questions. You know.
Yes. And we certainly had our fair share of that. But I think the best thing for me outside of getting the certification and learning the things that I learned, and I feel this way about every class, and I don't know if anybody else does, it was interacting with my colleagues
Mm-hmm.
was, I think, the highlight because you hear you hear stories and you see that these are professionals. These are not just people at some small little PSAP out in the middle of nowhere. They are every bit as professional, every bit as passionate and capable as you are.
Hmm.
And you are all in this room hoping to get something out of it that you can take back to your centers or maybe, put in your back pocket for a future move. Who knows? It was just really, it was well worth it. It was 40 hours of my life that I don't feel like I wasted.
Yeah. And like it is one of those classes where you do it you do have to get into small groups, work with other people, be dependent on them. So a lot of the things that like I usually like to work very independently by myself in a lot of ways. So those are all things that I struggle with to enjoy. So if you're an introvert
Yeah.
like I am, it's gonna suck a lot of your energy out of you. But it's really good because it I would agree that it does. It is one of the better classes that I've ever been to, just because you get to learn so much and see so much. You get to interact with other people and say and understand like the problems that you're facing in your agency. They're not just your problems. Like all the people we talk to,
No.
like all the guests that we have on, we all have the same problems, and it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
these are just sort of endemic to the entire industry. It's a nice, comforting feeling to know, hey,
Yes.
we're all batting against the same pitcher.
It is so true. The the drama in the centers, the wanting to retain your talent once you get it in the center, and having to combat the burnout of sometimes senior people. I don't want to know your name until you've been here a year. How do you deal with that? Because we're all trying to staff our centers because we all have a mission, and our mission is the same regardless of the size, whether it's a primary PSAP or a secondary PSAP. We still have stakeholders and we still have a public, in a sense, to serve. Because even if you're a secondary PSAP and all you really are dealing with is, let's just say for police, you are like LCRA,
Hmm.
right? They don't answer incoming 911 calls. Their stakeholders are the officers that they are serving, but they also secondarily serve the public. And that's our mission. All of us have, in essence, the same mission. And the same things that come against the mission here come against their mission, and they're having to combat it just like we are. And
Yeah,
it's not, I'm not glad to hear they're going through it, but like you said, it's comforting to know that certain things are universal.
yeah, yeah. And you get a lot of good ideas because sometimes like a small PSAP, may not have to wait, 6 months to have a decision made on what you can do with like employee A or reason B. And you're like, oh, that's a
Yeah.
great idea. Like we could just do
Yeah.
this or like, especially like it seems like the small PSAPs always have the really great ideas for like, morale building or like, they're like, we'll host a carnival with our local community. And like, it,
Yes.
it's a really great way to broaden your perspective, I think.
Yeah.
And like as I said, I think that there's so much value that you get from that. Not only in terms of like the hard skills, like how to
Hmm.
set up a center, how to figure out what forms need to be filled out and what contracts need to go here and here, but the soft
Yeah.
skills of talking to people and understanding them.
And conflict resolution. I mean, I feel like the class is just incredibly well rounded. I don't know about anybody else, but when it was asked, was there something that you thought was missing from the class? I can honestly say, if there was, I still haven't thought of it.
Hmm.
And it's where we are now, 8:40 p.m., and we got out at around 4, I think. So all this time, I still have not been able to come up with, or nothing's popped into my mind that was missing. That's how thorough the class was.
Hmm.
So if anybody is debating whether or not they should or whether it is for them, I absolutely think that you should give it a shot. Now, would I recommend it for a true frontline dispatcher that's only been in the gig for, I think there's minimum requirement of how long you have been in the business, right? I
Yeah.
don't think you can do that.
Yeah. I think you've got to have a couple
I
of
think it's
years
a
there.
minimum 3 years or
Yeah.
something like that. So if you are that person that feels like you just only been in the business, 3 years, 4 years, and you're thinking about leadership, and you're looking for a supervisory, I don't know that I would recommend this one because remember it is that highest level inside the center
Hmm.
perspective. But I'm actually looking forward to going back a little and finding their NENA supervisors
Yeah. Yeah.
course because this was so thorough. I can only imagine that at my level, what that one must be like. And even though I've been a supervisor before and I got now this time, I think collectively about 4 years, maybe even five, counting the lead. I just, NINA's just a top notch organization, and I think that they strive to give us the best training they possibly can. So I don't think it would be a waste of time at all
Yeah.
to give it a shot, regardless of whether you're a member or not. Of course, you do get a discount if you are. If you have a cog and blessed like us, we didn't have to pay a dime.
Thank you, Pamela.
Absolutely. Thank you, CapCog. So, yeah, it was just really good.
Hmm.
I feel like it was time, energy, and brain cells well spent.
Yes. I would agree to that if, and also like it's not even really useful for like frontline employees. It's more really like that higher level, like you were talking about. But even if you like, because I've been a supervisor now, what 9 years,
Mhm.
it's great. I think to continue to keep yourself sharp because you think you can learn everything, but not only A, do things change, but B, you may
Yeah,
not have learned the right thing originally, and C, you may not
that's
have learned it
true.
all. So
That's
don't
very
ever
true.
be afraid to be humble. I think that keeps you learning the best. As we talked about many episodes ago, like those people that come out of the classroom and they're like, "Oh, this power line command can do this," and you're like, "I never even knew about that." Same
Yeah.
thing with meeting other people. Everyone's got different perspectives, so don't be afraid to learn from them. You know.
Yes. Agreed. I
Well,
had a good time. It was good. Time well spent.
Well, I'm wonderful to hear. I'm very glad to hear that, and I hope that you all felt that your time with us today was well spent. We very much appreciate you tuning in and listening. If you have any questions or comments, please make sure that you shoot us an email to lifeline911podcast@gmail.com or leave a note on the YouTube channel. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Smash it, as the
Yes.
kids say.
Smash. Yes.
And from all of us at Lifeline 911, I'm Gary,
I'm Erica.
and we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911. If you have any questions about today's topic or topics you'd like us to cover in the future, please reach out to us at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. This has been a production of Lifeline 911 Podcast, copyright 2025. From all of us at Lifeline, stay safe out there. And until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.